The planet Xylos hummed with a perpetual low-frequency thrum. This wasn't the sound of machinery, but the collective resonance of the Cathar, a species whose biology was as interwoven with their environment as their rigid social structure was with their technology. The Cathar were aquatic beings resembling colossal bioluminescent jellyfish, their translucent bodies pulsating with intricate networks of glowing veins. Their civilization existed within a vast, planet-spanning ocean, kilometers deep in places illuminated by geothermal vents and the Cathar's own bioluminescence. Cities weren't built, but grown. Colossal coral structures cultivated over millennia, their interiors carved into living chambers and interwoven with complex hydroelectrical systems. This network of coral cities were connected by shimmering tunnels of pressurized water, through which the Cathar drifted with effortless grace. The Cathar society was structured around the current, a complex planet-wide network that harnessed the ocean's energy. The current powered their cities, their technology, and most importantly, maintained the delicate balance of their ecosystem. Each Cathar was assigned a specific role within the current's operation from birth, a role dictated by genetic predisposition and rigorously enforced by social conditioning. From the moment a Cathar was spawned, its life was dedicated to the current. Their education consisted of intricate hydroacoustic lessons on fluid dynamics, bioengineering, and the sacred history of the current. Individuality was discouraged, conformity was celebrated. The health and stability of the current were paramount. Central to Cathar society was the regulator, an ancient obsidian-like device that monitored the current's ebb and flow. The regulator was said to be infused with the collective wisdom of generations of Cathar elders, capable of predicting and correcting any anomaly within the vast oceanic system. The Cathar revered the regulator, its presence a constant reminder of their reliance on the current and their duty to maintain its equilibrium. Everything about the Cathar, from their pulsating bioluminescence to their meticulously planned lives, revolved around the current and the regulator. Their existence was a symphony of order, efficiency, and absolute control. They were a species, defined by their unwavering faith in the system that sustained them, a system they believed was infallible. Then one day, something undeniably infallible happened. A sleek metallic pod scorched from atmospheric entry breached the surface of the Xylosian Ocean. It bobbed incongruously amidst the carefully cultivated coral structures, a blatant disruption of the established order. The Cathar, naturally, were alarmed. The arrival of an unknown object was an anomaly of the highest order, a potential threat to the delicate balance of the current. Defense fleets, composed of bioengineered manta ray-like vessels, converged on the pod, their bioluminescent patterns, flashing warnings. The pod hissed open, releasing a plume of vapor and revealing its occupant, a human. A single, solitary human, clad in what appeared to be a faded t-shirt, cargo shorts, and a pair of rather worn-out sandals. She blinked against the filtered sunlight, took a deep breath of the humid air, and then, with a shrug, stepped out onto the coral platform. "Well, this is new," she muttered, adjusting her messy bun. Her name was Sarah, and she wasn't quite sure where she was, but she was pretty sure it wasn't Kansas anymore. Or, Earth. The Cathar were perplexed. Never in their meticulously recorded history had they encountered anything remotely like this creature. It was soft, squishy even, and its attire, utterly impractical for subaquatic life or really any kind of life that valued efficiency. The lead Cathar commander, designated Executor 742, transmitted a carefully modulated hydroacoustic query. "Unidentified entity, state your purpose and origin." Sarah squinted in the direction of the sound. Hi, I'm Sarah, and, my purpose is, well, I was kinda hoping someone could tell me that. As for origin, last I checked it was Earth, though I have a feeling I'm not there anymore." She grinned, a gesture that the Cathar found deeply unsettling. It seemed illogical. Executor 742 pulsed a warning pattern. "Earth is not a recognized designation within the Galactic Concordance. Your presence is Irregular. Explain. Sarah sighed. Look, long story short, I may have, possibly, accidentally reconfigured a temporal drive while trying to make toast. Science, am I right? The Cathar exchanged a series of rapid bioluminescent flashes, their equivalent of stunned silence. Temporal toast? The concepts were utterly alien, and frankly, deeply concerning. This Sarah was either dangerously insane or possessed of technology far beyond their understanding. Either way, she represented a clear and present danger to the current, and possibly breakfast. The Cathar, being a species governed by ritual, immediately attempted to initiate First Contact Protocol 7. It involved a complex series of synchronized, bioluminescent displays, the offering of a meticulously cultivated sea cucumber, grade A naturally, and the recitation of the prime directive in perfect harmonic resonance. Sarah, meanwhile, was busy admiring a particularly vibrant piece of coral. Ooh, pretty, is that real? It looks like something you'd find in a, really intense lava lamp. She reached out to touch it, a gesture that sent shivers of horror through the observing Cathar. Touching anything without proper authorization was a level 3 offense, punishable by mandatory algae scrubbing. Executor 742, fighting to maintain composure, transmitted a sharp, disapproving pulse. Entity Sarah refrained from physical contact. Such actions are disruptive to the established ecosystem and also really unhygienic. Sarah blinked, retracting her hand. Oh, sorry. Force of habit, I guess. We have this thing called gardening. Back home, you kinda touch plants. A lot. The Cathar struggled to process this information. Deliberately manipulating flora? It was barbaric. Unfathomable. Did these humans have no respect for the delicate balance of nature? The cultural chasm widened further when the Cathar attempted to communicate using their primary form of artistic expression, synchronized swimming patterns. A team of highly trained Cathar performed an intricate ballet, each movement precisely calculated to convey the history of their civilization, the beauty of the current, and the importance of proper waste disposal. Sarah watched for a few minutes, then yawned. Okay, that's nice. Kinda reminds me of the synchronized swimming at the Olympics. Only, with more tentacles. She then proceeded to pull out her phone, miraculously still functioning, and start filming the performance, punctuating the solemn aquatic display with giggles and commentary. Check it out, guys. Found some alien mermaids. Space Olympics, charn so extra. The Cathar were aghast, the sacred ballet reduced to a social media spectacle. The indignity was almost too much to bear. Executor 742 felt a twitch in his left gill, a sign of extreme stress. Later, the Cathar attempted to demonstrate their mastery of advanced hydroengineering by showcasing the Great Filter, a device that maintained the current's pristine clarity by removing microscopic debris and converting it into a nutrient paste. This paste was naturally the Cathar's primary food source. They presented Sarah with a meticulously crafted cube of the nutrient paste, explaining its vital role in maintaining the ecosystem and ensuring the survival of their species. They expected reverence, gratitude, perhaps even a respectful nibble. Sarah took one look at the gray, gelatinous cube and wrinkled her nose. What is that? It looks like something you'd scrape off the bottom of a petri dish. Undeterred, the Cathar explained the intricate process of converting waste into sustenance. Sarah listened, her eyes widening. Wait, you're telling me you eat recycled everything? She paused, a slow grin spreading across her face. You guys are like the ultimate recyclers. We could really use you back on Earth. We've got like mountains of plastic just floating around, you'd be heroes. The Cathar, however, did not take this as a compliment. The idea of consuming plastic, a substance so unnatural, so utterly devoid of organic integrity, was beyond repulsive. They saw it as a grave insult, a suggestion that they would stoop to eating garbage. The tension escalated further when Sarah, in an attempt to be helpful, decided to improve the efficiency of the Great Filter. She noticed that some of the smaller debris particles were slipping through the filtration system. Needs more oomph, she muttered, pulling out a roll of duct tape from her seemingly bottomless cargo shorts. She then proceeded to jury-rig, a series of modifications to the great filter, sealing gaps and reinforcing weak points with generous amounts of the sticky silver tape. The Cathar watched in horror as she defiled their sacred device with this primitive adhesive. Duct tape. It was an abomination, a symbol of human barbarity. What would the current think? Executor 742, his gill twitching uncontrollably, finally snapped, "Entity Sarah, cease this desecration at once. Your actions are illogical, disruptive, and frankly deeply offensive. Explain yourself." Sarah, covered in bits of algae and duct tape, looked up, genuinely surprised. "Huh? What's the problem?" "I'm just making it better. You know, a little DIY never hurt anyone. Besides, duct tape fixes everything." She winked, holding up the roll of duct tape like a trophy. "It's the human way." The Council of Elders convened in the Grand Hydro Chamber, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with concern. Executor 742 presented his report, detailing Sarah's increasingly bizarre behavior. The touching of unauthorized coral, the filming of sacred aquatic displays, the disparagement of nutrient paste, and, most egregious of all, the duct taping of the great filter. "This duct tape," intoned Elder Morak, his voice a low rumble that resonated through the water, "is a clear sign of technological deficiency. A crude, inefficient adhesive. How could it possibly improve the function of our filter?" Elder Lyra, known for her strategic thinking, pulsed a series of cautious patterns. "Perhaps it is a form of subterfuge, a way to mask a more sinister purpose. We must consider all possibilities." Suspicion began to bloom within the council like a poisonous anemone. Was Sarah truly as clueless as she appeared, or was she a highly sophisticated operative sent to sabotage their civilization from within? The very notion was unsettling. A formal investigation was launched. Teams of Cathar were assigned to monitor Sarah's every move, recording her actions, analyzing her speech patterns, and attempting to decipher the purpose behind her seemingly random acts. They scrutinized her peculiar device, the phone, and the strange images and sounds it emitted. The investigators found Sarah in the hydroponics lab, attempting to cultivate earth plants within the Cathar's carefully controlled ecosystem. She had somehow acquired a bag of potting soil. Where did she get that? And was cheerfully planting seeds in repurposed nutrient paste containers. "Hey guys," she chirped, oblivious to the glares she was receiving. "I thought I'd add a little biodiversity to the place, you know, a bit of color. I call these tomatoes. They're red, juicy, and you can, put them in salads or something." The Cathar exchanged uneasy glances. Salads? The concept was foreign, almost disturbing. Why would anyone consume raw, unprocessed plant matter when perfectly good nutrient paste was available? It made no logical sense. Later, Sarah was observed attempting to communicate with the local fauna, a species of bioluminescent plankton that played a crucial role in maintaining the current's oxygen levels. She was using a small, handheld device that emitted a series of flashing lights and high-pitched noises. "Come on, little guys," she cooed. "Dance for me. Do your thing. Show me what you got." The plankton naturally ignored her. They were plankton. But the Cathar were deeply concerned. What was she trying to achieve? Was she attempting to manipulate the plankton, to disrupt the delicate balance of the ecosystem? The possibilities were terrifying. The surveillance continued day and night. The Cathar watched as Sarah explored their city, poked at their technology, and generally wreaked havoc on their carefully ordered society. She was a walking, talking anomaly, a source of constant confusion and growing anxiety. Executor 742, burdened by the responsibility of understanding this strange human, began to experience doubts. Was their rigid adherence to protocol truly the best way? Was there something to be learned from Sarah's unconventional approach? He watched as she interacted with a group of Cathar children, teaching them how to make origami swans out of seaweed. The children, initially hesitant, were soon giggling and chattering, their bioluminescent patterns flashing with amusement. A forbidden emotion stirred within Executor 742. Curiosity. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was more to this human than met the eye. But he couldn't let his personal feelings cloud his judgment. The safety of his people was paramount. The council demanded answers. They summoned Executor 742 to the Grand Hydro Chamber, demanding a full assessment of Sarah's intentions. The fate of the Cathar civilization hung in the balance. Executor 742, Elder Morak boomed. What is your evaluation of entity Sarah? Is she a threat to our society? Executor 742 hesitated. He had compiled a vast amount of data, but the puzzle remained incomplete. He had seen her disrupt their customs, defile their technology, and confuse their citizens. But he had also seen her kindness, her curiosity, and her genuine desire to connect. I am uncertain, Elder, he confessed, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with uncertainty. She is unlike anything we have ever encountered. Her actions are unpredictable, but I have found no concrete evidence of malicious intent. Elder Lyra narrowed her eyes. Uncertainty is unacceptable. We need clarity. We need to know if she poses a danger to our people. The pressure mounted. Executor 742 knew that his next words could determine Sarah's fate, and perhaps the fate of the Cathar as well. He took a deep breath and spoke. I propose we confront her directly, he announced. We ask her to explain her actions, to reveal her true purpose. Only then can we make an informed decision about the threat she poses. The council murmured its approval. It was a risky move, but perhaps the only way to unravel the mystery of the human. The stage was set for a final confrontation, a moment of truth that would determine the future of two vastly different civilizations. The confrontation took place in the heart of the Hydro Gardens, a vast, shimmering cavern filled with bioluminescent flora. Sarah stood before the council, her face a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. Executor 742 translated the elder's questions, his voice echoing through the cavern. Human Sarah, Elder Morak intoned. You have been observed engaging in a number of unusual activities. You have tampered with our technology, disrupted our customs, and confused our citizens. Explain yourself. Sarah shifted her weight, fiddling with the strap of her backpack. Okay, look, she began. I know things have been a little weird, but I swear, I didn't mean any harm. I was just trying to, help. Help? Elder Lyra questioned, her bioluminescent patterns flashing, skeptically. By applying adhesive strips to the Great Filter? By planting foreign vegetation in our hydroponics lab? By harassing our plankton with flashing lights? Sarah winced. Okay, when you put it like that, it sounds bad. But hear me out. The duct tape? I noticed a small leak in the filter's casing. Back on Earth, we use duct tape for everything. It's like a universal fix-it tool. The Cathar exchanged confused glances. A universal fix-it tool? The concept was ludicrous. Their technology was far too sophisticated for such crude interventions. And the plants? Sarah continued. Your nutrient paste is, well, let's just say it lacks a certain je ne sais quoi. Tomatoes are delicious. They add flavor, vitamins, and, joy. Joy? Elder Morak rumbled. We do not require joy. We require sustenance, efficiency, order. Sarah sighed. This was going nowhere. She decided to cut to the chase. Okay, what about the plankton? You guys seemed really stressed about that, right? The council nodded grimly. The incident with the plankton had been particularly alarming. They believed she was attempting to manipulate the vital organisms, potentially disrupting the entire ecosystem. Well, Sarah said, pulling a small rectangular device from her backpack. This is a karaoke machine. A what now machine? The Cathar stared at the device, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with utter bewilderment. It was a simple plastic box with a microphone and a built-in speaker. It looked utterly innocuous, almost childish. "Karaoke?" Executor 742 translated, his voice laced with incredulity. "What is the purpose of this karaoke?" Sarah grinned. "It's for singing. You play a song and then you sing along. It's like super fun." She pressed a button on the machine and a tinny, synthesized melody filled the hydro gardens. It was a song that everyone on Earth knew, an undeniable classic. "I Will Survive" by Gloria Gaynor. The Cathar recoiled in horror. The music was chaotic, unstructured, loud. It assaulted their senses, disrupting the carefully balanced harmonies of their environment. But the worst was yet to come. Sarah grabbed the microphone and began to sing, her voice amplified and echoing through the cavern. She wasn't a particularly good singer, but she sang with enthusiasm, belting out the lyrics with gusto. At first I was afraid. I was petrified. The Cathar were aghast. What was this bizarre ritual? Was it some sort of sonic weapon? A form of psychological warfare? They huddled together, their bioluminescent patterns flashing frantically, trying to understand the meaning of this noise. As it turned out, the plankton loved it. The vibrations of the music resonated through the water, stimulating their bioluminescent cells and causing them to glow even brighter. They began to dance, swirling and twirling in a mesmerizing display of light and color. The Cathar watched, in stunned silence. The plankton, usually so passive and predictable, were now engaged in a wild, ecstatic dance. And it was all thanks to karaoke? Sarah finished the song, panting slightly, and beamed at the council. "See?" she said. "They like it. It's like a party for plankton. Who knew?" The elders were speechless. Their entire worldview had been turned upside down. The dangerous device they had feared was nothing more than a musical entertainment system. The manipulation of the plankton was simply a fun way to liven things up. Executor 742, still trying to process what he had just witnessed, spoke for the council. "Human Sarah," he said, his voice tinged with amusement, "it appears we have misjudged you." "You think?" Sarah quipped, grinning. The Cathar realized that Sarah hadn't been trying to harm them at all. She had simply been trying to share her culture, her experiences, and her unique brand of Earth-style fun. And in doing so, she had inadvertently revealed a whole new world of possibilities for the Cathar. The great filter was still functional, by the way. The duct tape held. The silence that followed Sarah's performance was thick enough to cut with a hydro knife. The elders, their bioluminescent patterns dim, exchanged bewildered glances. Executor 742, ever the diplomat, was the first to speak, though his voice wavered slightly. "Human Sarah," he began, "it appears your intentions were not malicious." Elder Morak, the most senior member of the council, finally rumbled. "But the noise, the disharmony, the singing." He shuddered, his bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically. Sarah shrugged, unfazed. "Hey, everyone's a critic." But the plankton seemed to dig it. She gestured to the swirling, dancing plankton, now putting on a spectacular light show. "Maybe you guys just need to loosen up a little, you know?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the council. Loosen up? The concept was alien to them. Their entire society was built on order, efficiency, and rigid adherence to protocol. Loosening up sounded terrifying. But then, something unexpected happened. A young Cathar, barely an adult, tentatively began to sway to the lingering rhythm of the karaoke machine. His bioluminescent patterns pulsed in time with the faint beat. He glanced nervously at the elders, but they were too engrossed in their own bewilderment to notice. Emboldened, the young Cathar began to hum along, his voice a soft, tentative melody that blended surprisingly well with the synthesized music. Other young Cathar joined in, their voices rising in a chorus of hesitant harmony. The elders watched in stunned silence as their rigid, orderly society began to, well, loosen up. The Plankton danced, the young Cathar sang, and even Executor 742 found himself tapping a tentacle to the beat. Elder Lyra, usually the most stoic member of the council, slowly began to smile, her bioluminescent patterns glowing, with an unfamiliar warmth. Perhaps, she said, her voice softer than usual, there is something to be said for spontaneity. The resolution came swiftly. The council, still slightly dazed, declared a new cultural initiative. The Plankton Party program. Karaoke machines were installed in every hydro garden, and mandatory fun breaks were introduced into the Cathar work schedule. The Cathar society was never quite the same. They still valued order and efficiency, but they also learned to appreciate the joys of music, dance, and spontaneous plankton parties. They even started experimenting with new flavors for their nutrient paste, adding a hint of tomato for that je ne sais quoi. As for Sarah, she became an honorary member of the Cathar. She was given a lifetime supply of nutrient paste, which she promptly traded for a lifetime supply of plankton party snacks, and was hailed as a cultural ambassador between Earth and Cathar. Before leaving, Sarah was asked by Executor 742 if she had any parting thoughts for the council. She paused, considering the question carefully, then said, "You know you guys are really uptight. But, thanks for all the fish." Executor 742 translated the phrase literally, causing a wave of confusion among the Cathar, but Sarah just grinned, waved goodbye, and stepped back into her spaceship, leaving the Cathar to ponder the mysteries of human culture and the true meaning of thanks for all the fish. It was, after all, a long-running gag from a very old book, and she was, after all, the only one left. And that was enough. And so the Cathar entered a new era, one where the echoes of off-key human karaoke mingled with the regimented clicks of their ancient protocols. Plankton parties became a weekly ritual, mandatory fun injections into their otherwise meticulously planned lives. It wasn't always smooth sailing. There were incidents, of course. The great nutrient paste riot of 2347, sparked by an overzealous attempt to introduce pineapple flavor, a flavor deemed tactically unsound by Elder Morak. The accidental synchronization of the city's sanitation systems with a particularly enthusiastic rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody, resulting in a brief but memorable sewage geyser in the central plaza. But through it all, the Cathar persisted. They learned to laugh, albeit awkwardly, at their own foibles. They discovered the joy of letting go, even if it was only for a few precious moments each week. They even started telling jokes, though most of them involved complex algorithms and the existential dread of nutrient-paste monotony. As for Sarah's legacy, it lived on in the heart of Cathar culture. A small statue of her, perpetually holding a microphone and wearing a slightly bewildered expression, was erected in the central plaza. It was often mistaken for a weather vane, but the Cathar knew better. And sometimes, on quiet nights, if you listened closely, you could almost hear the faint strains of a karaoke machine echoing through the hydro gardens, a reminder that even the most rigid societies can learn to dance to a different tune. The universe, it seemed, had a funny way of balancing itself out. All it took was one human, a karaoke machine, and a whole lot of confused plankton. After all, she was the only one left. And that was enough.